everyone, and a super warm welcome back to the Deep Dive.
We are really thrilled about what we're going to unpack with you today.
Absolutely. You pointed us towards something really compelling. We're diving into the first chapter of Never Split the Difference, How to Become the Smartest Person in Any Room.
Yeah, and this chapter, it just sets the stage so brilliantly. You've got Chris Voss,
Yeah, right?
a seasoned FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator.
Thrown right into the lion's den, essentially.
Exactly, facing Harvard Law School negotiation professors. I mean, the premise itself is just, wow, captivating.
It really is. It grabs you immediately. Voss talks about meeting Robert Mnookin and Gabriella Bloom, and these aren't just, any academics.
No way. These are heavy hitters. Mnookin heads up the Harvard Negotiation Research Project, wrote Bargaining with the Devil.
Right.
And Bloom, she's got this deep background in Israeli national security, the IDF, international negotiations.
So it's a real meeting of different worlds, different kinds of expertise.
For sure. So our mission today, digging into this chapter, is really to pull out the key ideas. Understand who these players are, Voss, the professors, and pinpoint those moments that start building Voss's whole angle on negotiation.
Okay, yeah. Let's get into it. That initial feeling,
Yeah.
Voss walking in there. Let's talk about the intimidation factor first.
Right. Because Voss isn't fresh out of Quantico. He's got over 20 years with the FBI.
15 of those as the lead international kidnapping negotiator.
Yeah, and the book points out that's a really unique role, one person at a time out of 10,000 agents.
Wow.
So his background is just steeped in these incredibly high-stakes life-or-death situations.
And then they hit him with that hypothetical scenario. It's so personal.
Yeah.
We've got your son, Voss. Give us $1 million or he dies.
Oof.
I mean, talk about hitting close to home. For someone who deals with this professionally, now it's framed as his son. And $1 million, it's designed to just break him down, right?
Totally. And you immediately see this contrast. Voss, with all this, practical front lines experience, up against Mnookin and Bloom, who were basically the pinnacle of academic negotiation theory.
They have their own deep expertise, obviously, but it's different. It's rooted into different kind of thinking, maybe.
Exactly. And the setup itself, Mnookin invites him for coffee, seems casual.
Yeah.
And then, surprise, it's a role play, tape recorder's running.
Whoa, okay. So, like an ambush negotiation exercise.
Pretty much. Mnookin orchestrates it. It feels like a move to deliberately unsettle Voss, catch him off guard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Huh.
What do you think the strategy was there? Just to see his gut reaction?
I think so. Probably to bypass any prepared theories or academic frameworks Voss might have picked up and just see his raw negotiator instincts under pressure. A direct test.
Okay, so the scene is set, recorder's on, Mnookin drops that bomb, we've got your son, and then really lays it on thick, get me the money or I cut your son's throat right now.
Super aggressive.
So what does Voss do? Does he shout back? Does he panic?
Nope. It's actually kind of brilliant in its simplicity.
Yeah.
He gives Mnookin this long look, maybe even cracks a little smile, the book says.
Okay.
And then he just asks, very calmly, how am I supposed to do that?
That's it.
That's it.
Wow. That completely flips it, doesn't it?
Totally. Suddenly, Mnookin, the guy making the demands, has to, think about the logistics from Voss's side.
It forces the problem back onto Mnookin.
Yeah.
Okay, you want the money. How do I get it to you? It stops the aggression cold.
Exactly. It reframes the whole thing. It shifts the focus from Voss needing to react to Mnookin, needing to explain the how. It's a subtle power shift.
And that's where he introduces this concept, or at least the seed of it. Calibrated questions, right?
That's what his group, the Black Swan Group, calls them later. These open-ended questions, usually starting with how or what.
No fixed answers.
Right. They buy you time, make the other person feel like they're solving the problem, like they're in control because they're talking and explaining.
It's about guiding, not demanding, making them work through it. And starting with why can sound like accusatory, he notes.
Yeah, why puts people on the defensive. How and what invite collaboration, even if it's sort of illusory collaboration.
Then he follows up, and this is interesting too, with, I'm sorry, Robert, how do I know he's even alive? That little, I'm sorry seems so out of place.
Right. But he explains it's deliberate, adding that touch of softness, using the first name.
It humanizes things.
Yeah, it makes it just a tiny bit harder for Mnookin to just bulldoze him. It complicates the purely aggressive dynamic.
And the question itself is fundamental. Proof of life. You can't negotiate without that.
Exactly. It challenges the entire basis of the demand. Why pay if you don't even know the hostage is okay?
And it sounds like it worked. It threw Mnookin off.
Yeah, the chapter says Mnookin got flustered, which, for someone like him.
Must have been something.
Right. And then Gabriella Bloom jumps in, cries her approach.
Same result?
Pretty much. Voss sticks to his questioning, and she can't really get traction either. It shows the technique isn't just about one person's style. It works against different approaches.
And finally, Mnookin calls off the exercise. He sounds a bit frustrated, but that closing line, I suppose the FBI might have something to teach us.
That's huge, isn't it?
It's a crack in the armor.
Yeah.
A little bit of grudging respect, maybe. An admission that maybe the real world has lessons theory hasn't quite caught up with yet.
Exactly. It's that first hint that maybe, just maybe, there's more to negotiation than rational argument and established theories.
So Voss walks away from this pretty intense encounter, feeling like his FBI stuff actually holds up against the best academic minds. And that leads him to think, okay, why did this work? What's the difference between how the FBI learned this and how Harvard teaches it?
Right. He contrasts the FBI's approach learning through doing, trial and error in actual crises,
High stakes, immediate feedback.
with Harvard's more theoretical, structured approach. The FBI's learning curve was vertical, driven by, life or death necessity.
You don't have time for abstract debates when someone's life is on the line.
Yeah.
The techniques have to work right now.
Exactly. It was knowledge built collectively from shared, intense experiences. What worked, what failed, adapted constantly. Practical evolution.
And this whole experience sparks these big questions for Voss, like, okay, these FBI techniques work in extreme situations, but could they work for, regular people?
Yeah.
In everyday negotiations.
Yeah. Could you apply this outside of hostage situations? That curiosity seems to be the driving force behind him actually enrolling in the Harvard Law School winter negotiation course in 2006.
Right. He wants to bridge that gap, find a way to articulate what he knows intuitively, and see how it lines up with the academic side.
So he goes into the course, and he's the clear outsider, right? Surrounded by all these sharp Harvard students, people from other top schools.
Definitely a competitive environment, you'd imagine.
Oh, for sure. Everyone's steeped in the latest negotiation theories, ready to argue logically.
And then comes the mock negotiation with Andy.
Ah, yes, Andy. Described as, super smart, intellectually superior.
So Andy's laying out all these rational arguments, presumably making a very logical case. And Voss just keeps hitting him with, how am I supposed to do that?
It's almost comical, but it just shows how rationality alone can be completely derailed. Andy's logic doesn't matter if Voss keeps poking holes in the feasibility from his side.
And the result is crazy.
Yeah.
Voss apparently gets literally every dime from Andy, way more than the exercise intended.
Yeah, completely cleans him out, basically, just by sticking to that simple, open-ended question.
And it wasn't just Andy, right? He says this happened with other partners, too.
Yeah, the chapter makes it clear it was a pattern. His experience-based, question-driven approach was consistently getting better results than the cutting-edge theories the students were using.
Which must have felt pretty validating for Voss. He notes that the Harvard techniques felt, dated and old compared to what he learned in the trenches.
He uses that great analogy like Roger Federer playing tennis against people using older wooden rackets.
Right. The practical application, the refinement through real-world play, it just gives you an edge.
Even the instructor, Sheila, notices something's different. She calls it his special style.
And asks him how he does it. And his explanation is so basic.
Yeah, I just ask questions, the same questions over and over.
But Sheila sees the effect, right? She points out that his questions somehow make the other side feel like maybe their proposal isn't fair, or maybe they haven't thought it through.
Exactly. It subtly suggests unfairness or dishonesty without actually accusing them. It makes them second-guess themselves, start negotiating with themselves.
Voss calls it passive-aggressive, which is an interesting way to put it.
It is, but it captures how it works. It creates doubt and shifts the burden without direct confrontation.
And poor Andy's reaction afterwards, damn, that's what happened. I had no idea. It just shows how subtle but powerful the effect was.
Even smart people didn't realize how they were being guided by these simple questions.
Okay, so let's wrap up the key takeaways from just this first chapter. It feels like quite a lot is established right off the bat.
Oh, definitely. First, you've got that core tension. Harvard's rational theoretical approach versus the FBI's practical, emotionally intelligent, high-stakes approach.
Negotiation isn't just logic puzzles. It's messy human psychology.
Second, the power of those open-ended, calibrated questions. They're not just for information. They're tools to control the flow, buy time, shift the dynamic.
You're making the other side feel heard while you're actually steering things.
Third, Voss's experience at Harvard starts to validate his methods. They work, even against the supposed best of the best in negotiation theory.
And finally, it really sets the stage for the rest of the book, hinting strongly that understanding human behavior, irrationality and all, is way more important than just pure logic and getting what you want.
Absolutely. It's moving away from just the transaction towards understanding the person across the table, a really compelling foundation.
Wow. Okay, this has been genuinely fascinating. Really enjoyed digging into just this opening chapter.
Me too. It packs a punch.
And for our next deep dive, we are definitely excited to get into Chapter 2. Voss starts talking about being a mirror, establishing rapport quickly.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly useful. Eager to unpack more of these practical strategies.
So we really hope you'll stay tuned as we continue this journey. We're learning alongside you, pulling these insights from Voss's incredible experience.
Absolutely. It's going to be great exploring how these high-stakes FBI techniques can actually apply, everywhere. We can't wait to dive deeper with you.